My name is Daniel, and my life changed irrevocably on a fateful day. I was an ordinary man, with a loving family and a peaceful routine. We lived in a small town in the interior of the United States, where everything seemed to follow a predictable and safe course. My wife, Maria, and our two children, Lucas and Sophia, were the reason for my existence. Every moment spent with them was a treasure, and I could never have imagined the depth of the loss I was about to face. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. A devastating car accident took Maria and Sophia from me and left my body in a state of destruction. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by machines and tubes, feeling a physical pain I could barely describe. However, the emotional pain was even more intense. Losing my wife and daughter was something my mind couldn't process. Lucas, my surviving son, was being cared for by my younger brother, trying to cope with his own pain. While I was in the hospital, going through countless surgeries and treatments, there were moments when the pain and despair seemed unbearable. Every minute was a battle, not just for my physical recovery, but also for my mental sanity. The isolation and silence of the hospital amplified my suffering, and I found myself on the brink of the abyss of hopelessness. It was in this fragile state that I began to have experiences that would change my view of life and death forever. One night, I fell into a deep and unusual sleep. I felt a lightness I had never experienced before, and a soft light began to envelop my body. This light was different from anything I had ever seen. It was warm and comforting, and seemed to radiate pure love. Gradually, I felt as if I were being lifted above the hospital bed, floating in a space that was beyond time and pain. It was in this state that I realized I was entering a different world, a place I could only describe as home. The landscape around me was of indescribable beauty. There were green fields stretching as far as my eyes could see, and flowers of vibrant colors that seemed to glow with their own light. The air was filled with a sense of peace and familiarity, as if I were returning to a place I had always known, but had forgotten. I began to run, feeling the firm and alive ground under my feet, something that seemed so natural and at the same time extraordinary. As I ran, I felt every muscle in my body vibrate with energy and life. It was as if every cell was awake and aware, participating in a harmonious dance with the universe around me. The feeling of fullness and happiness was overwhelming. I was complete and whole in a way I had never been before. However, along with this euphoria came a subtle perception that my journey was not yet complete, that there was more to discover and understand. It was then that I saw, in the distance, a familiar figure. It was my daughter, Sophia, lying in a crib, just like on the day of the accident. My heart filled with love and longing at the sight of her, and I ran to her, desperate to hold her again. When I picked her up in my arms, I felt her real weight, her warmth, and heard her soft breathing. It was a moment of reunion that transcended anything I could describe in words. All I knew was that, at that moment, I was truly home. As I held Sophia in my arms, I felt a wave of emotions ranging from pure joy to deep sorrow. The texture of her skin, the smell of her hair, and the softness of her breath were as real as anything I had ever experienced. It was as if time had stopped, and in that instant, I was in a place where nothing else mattered but the love I felt for my daughter. However, there was something deeper happening. An inner voice told me that this experience had a greater purpose. While still holding Sophia, I sensed a presence around me, something that transcended any common definition. It was not just the light enveloping me, but a feeling of being watched by a benevolent and powerful being. This presence slowly approached, and with it came a wave of peace that calmed my anxieties. There was no judgment, only an unconditional love that surrounded both me and my daughter. It was at this moment that I understood I was in the presence of the divine. The divine presence brought me a clarity I had never felt before. I began to revisit moments of my life, as if watching a movie. I saw my childhood, my parents, my siblings, and all the significant events that shaped who I am. Each experience was revisited with a new perspective. There were no mistakes or failures, only opportunities for learning. It was a profound lesson about forgiveness, not only of myself, but of all the people who crossed my path. In the midst of this life review, the divine presence communicated with me in a way that transcended words. It was an exchange of thoughts and feelings that made me understand the importance of free will. Every choice I made in life, good or bad, had a purpose and contributed to my spiritual growth. There was no condemnation, only an invitation to learn and evolve. This understanding brought a deep peace, something I had never felt before. The experience continued to unfold in unexpected ways. I was taken to different scenarios, each representing an aspect of my life that needed attention and healing. I saw moments of joy, sadness, regret, and fulfillment. In each of these moments, the divine presence was there, guiding me and showing that, regardless of the circumstances, I was loved and accepted unconditionally. This revelation completely changed the way I viewed my own existence. While these spiritual experiences were occurring, my physical body was still in the hospital, undergoing intense procedures and treatments. The physical and spiritual reality seemed intertwined in a way I could never have imagined. Each time I returned from these experiences, I felt a renewal of strength and purpose. My physical recovery began to accelerate, not only because of the medical treatments, but because my mind and spirit were healing simultaneously. The culmination of these experiences was a clear vision that I was not destined to remain in that spiritual state forever. The divine presence communicated to me that there was still a purpose for me on earth, something I needed to fulfill. With one last embrace of love and peace, I was gently brought back to my physical body. I woke up in the hospital with a new perspective on life, aware that I had the chance to make a difference not just for myself, but for everyone around me. I woke up in the hospital with a renewed sense of clarity and a completely different perspective. I knew that despite the immense losses, my journey was not yet complete. My doctors and nurses were surprised by my accelerated recovery, but they had no idea that my spirit had been profoundly transformed. I had a new mission, a purpose that transcended my physical and emotional pains. However, the most difficult task was yet to come, returning to Lucas and rebuilding our life together. I was transferred to my younger brother's house, where Lucas was temporarily living. The ambulance ride was a mix of anxiety and hope. The last time I saw Lucas, he was devastated, just like me. When we arrived, I saw my brother and his family waiting at the entrance. Lucas was there too, with a look of mixed expectation and fear. My physical condition was evident, with the amputation and various support devices, but my heart was full of love and determination. Lucas ran towards me as soon as he saw me, but to my surprise, he ran right past me. My heart sank, fearing that the sight of his mutilated father was too much for him to bear. However, looking around, I saw my son knocking on the neighbors' doors, calling everyone to see his father. "My dad is home. My dad is back," he shouted, his voice full of pride and joy. This moment filled me with an indescribable emotion. Lucas's unconditional acceptance was all I needed to feel that the battle had been worth it. Lucas finally came back to me, throwing himself into my lap with a tight hug that almost made me collapse. The physical pain was intense, but the love I felt at that moment was even more powerful. I told him that although I was physically different, I was determined to get better and that I would need his help. His eyes, full of innocence and wisdom, looked at me and he said, "Dad, I would love you even if you were just a puddle of blood." Those words broke any barrier of pain or doubt I still had, and I knew that together we could face anything. In the following days, as I adjusted to the new routine at my brother's house, I began to realize that every little moment with Lucas was an opportunity for healing and growth. Teaching Lucas to deal with my condition, laughing together at the little things, and simply being present became the pillars of my new life. Every smile, Every word of encouragement from Lucas was a reminder of the unconditional love I had experienced in my spiritual visions. On a particularly beautiful morning, Lucas and I were in the garden, enjoying the sun. He looked at me and said, "Dad, even though Mom and Sophia aren't here physically, I feel like they are with us." Lucas's words resonated deeply within me. The love I felt for my family, both those who were here and those who had passed, transcended any physical limit. I understood that the love we share never disappears. It just transforms and continues to guide us. Lucas's acceptance and love gave me the strength to face each day with courage and gratitude. The recovery journey was long and full of challenges, but I knew I was not alone. The love I felt in my spiritual experiences and Lucas's unwavering love became the foundation of my new life. And with that, I began to see that the true home was not a physical place, but a state of being where love and connection with others are the essence of everything. Days turned into weeks, and gradually, the new routine began to solidify. Lucas and I developed an even stronger bond, forged in difficulties and overcoming. Every small victory was celebrated. Every step towards physical recovery was a testament to the strength of love and human determination. Although the pain of loss was a constant shadow, it was also a reminder of the depth of the bonds we share with those we love, regardless of the dimension they are in. In moments of tranquility, I reflected on the lessons learned during my spiritual experiences. I understood that the unconditional love I felt was not exclusive to that celestial realm, but something that could be cultivated here on earth. I decided that each day would be an opportunity to spread that love, starting with my family and expanding to everyone around me. Lucas's presence, his enthusiasm, and his joy were a constant fuel for this mission. However, there were difficult days, moments when the longing for Maria and Sophia was overwhelming. In those moments, I remembered the divine embrace and the words of encouragement I received. I knew that, just like me, many other people carried deep wounds and sought solace. Inspired by my experiences, I began to share my story with others. Whether in small support groups or individual conversations, each account was a chance to touch someone's heart and offer a glimpse of hope. A particularly remarkable moment was when Lucas asked me to tell him more about my visions with Sophia. His curiosity and desire to connect with his deceased sister were moving. As I recounted my experiences, I saw in his eyes the consolation and peace he was seeking. I realized that, like me, Lucas was also learning to navigate through the pain and find a greater meaning in our experiences. This sharing of feelings brought us even closer and strengthened our joint journey. As time passed, I began to realize that true healing was not just about overcoming pain, but finding beauty and meaning in every aspect of life. Small moments, like picking fresh tomatoes from the garden or feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin, became celebrations of the miracle of existence. Life, in all its fragility and beauty, was a gift to be cherished and lived fully. This new perspective transformed each day into a new opportunity to grow and love. Finally, I accepted that pain and joy are inseparable parts of the human experience. The longing for Maria and Sophia never completely disappeared, but it evolved into a feeling of gratitude for having known and loved them. Lucas and I learned to honor their memories by living our lives with courage, compassion, and deep love. I found a renewed purpose in being an example of resilience and hope for my son and for everyone who crossed my path. Through pain, love, and spiritual revelations, I discovered that the true home is not a physical place, but a state of being where unconditional love prevails. And with Lucas by my side, I knew that regardless of the challenges we faced, we would always find strength in the love that united us. After all, we were home. After months of recovery and adaptation to the new life, I began to reflect more deeply on everything that had happened. The spiritual experiences I lived and the unconditional love I felt became a beacon guiding my daily actions. I couldn't ignore the transformative impact of these experiences and felt an increasing responsibility to share these lessons with the world. I started writing a journal, recording every detail of my experiences, hoping that my story could touch other lives as it had touched mine. I decided that I wouldn't stop at the written words. I began looking for opportunities to speak publicly about my journey in churches, community centers, and support groups. Every time I stepped on stage, I relived the pain and joy, but I saw in the audience's eyes the same need for hope and connection that I felt. My message was simple yet powerful. Even in the worst adversities, love and choice can guide us back to the light. People would approach me after my talks, often in tears, thanking me for sharing something so intimate and revealing. At home, Lucas and I continued to grow together. He became my biggest supporter, helping me prepare for the talks and even suggesting topics to discuss. Every day, he demonstrated a maturity and understanding of the world that surpassed his age. This filled me with pride and gratitude. Knowing that my journey was shaping not only my life, but also Lucas's gave me a renewed sense of purpose. Our bond was living proof of the transformative power of love. Besides the talks, I began getting involved in volunteer work. I visited hospitals, spoke with recovering patients, and offered emotional support to families facing losses. Each interaction was an opportunity to plant a seed of hope. I found myself becoming a beacon of light for those in moments of darkness, and this gave me a deep sense of fulfillment. The legacy I wanted to leave was clear. No matter how difficult the journey, there is always a way to find light and peace. As time went by, I started to realize that my actions were leaving a lasting impact. I received letters and emails from people from all over, sharing how my story had inspired changes in their lives. Many spoke about finding strength to face challenges, reconnecting with their loved ones, or simply finding some peace amidst chaos. These responses fueled my spirit and reinforced my determination to continue my mission. My relationship with Lucas continued to flourish. He grew into a compassionate and resilient young man, someone who understood the value of empathy and choice. I knew that, regardless of what the future held for us, I was preparing him to live a full and meaningful life. Lucas was my living proof that even in the face of tragedy, it is possible to find purpose and joy. Finally, I realized that the most important legacy I could leave was not just in words or actions, but in the way I lived my life every day. Each moment of love, each conscious choice, each act of kindness was a piece of a larger mosaic. Through this new perspective, I learned to see life as a series of opportunities to love and be loved. And with this vision, I continued my journey, knowing that the true legacy is the positive impact we leave on the hearts of those we touch.